Alien warrior women mocked Earth until they encountered her sons. The war hall of the Orion Coalition was built to impress and to intimidate. Its ceiling rose high like a carved mountain, covered in metal banners that told stories of conquest. Each banner belonged to a warrior clan ruled by women who had earned their place through battle. The air itself felt heavy with pride, strength, and old victories. Rows of alien warrior women stood in polished armor, their expressions sharp and confident. They had gathered to review emerging species, deciding which worlds were worth respect and which could be ignored or conquered. Holographic screens floated above the floor, displaying rotating images of planets and military statistics. When Earth appeared on the screen, laughter spread through the hall. "Small bodies, short lives," one commander said, her voice echoing. "They break easily." Another warrior woman crossed her arms and smiled. "They argue among themselves more than they fight others." "They will never last." At the center of the hall stood General Caraxa. She was taller than most, her armor marked with deep scars that told stories no words could improve. She had fought on 10 worlds and never lost. When she raised one clawed hand, the laughter slowly died. "Earth," Caraxa said calmly, studying the data. "A death world, yes, but their recorded combat strength is low." "Exactly," a captain replied. "They survive by luck, not power." Before Caraxa could respond, a soft chime echoed through the hall. A diplomatic request appeared on the central screen. "Request, human observer status, joint war games." For a moment the hall was silent, then laughter returned, louder than before. "They want to watch us fight," one warrior scoffed. "Or maybe they want to learn how real warriors live," another added. Caraxa narrowed her eyes. "Who sent the request?" "A civilian," an aide answered. "A human woman, no military rank." That caused even more amusement. A human woman, no less. "Let them come," Caraxa said after a pause. "If they wish to see their future, we will show them." The decision was made. Earth would be allowed to send observers to the upcoming war games on the hostile moon of Carvos. It was a place where storms could strip skin from bone and the ground itself shifted without warning. Many considered it a test of true warriors. Far away from the Grand War Hall, on a quiet frontier world orbiting a dull red star, Elena Ward stood outside a simple steel building. Wind blew dust across the open land, carrying the smell of metal and soil. There were no banners here, no statues of heroes. Only work, survival, and routine. Elena was not tall, and she carried no weapon. Her hair was tied back, streaked with gray from years of hard living. She watched 2 young men repairing a solar rig under the fading light, her sons. Marcus and Daniel Ward moved with steady focus. They spoke little as they worked, each knowing what the other would do without asking. Their clothes were worn, patched many times. They were not soldiers by title, but they had grown up on a world where mistakes could kill and help might never come. When the transmission from the Orion Coalition arrived, Elena had listened without changing her expression. She knew what mockery sounded like. Earth had heard it for generations. That night, the 3 sat around a small table inside their home. A single light hummed overhead. "They think we are weak," Daniel said quietly. "They always do," Marcus replied. Elena looked at both of them. "You are not going there to prove them wrong with words." "We know," Marcus said. "You go to observe," she continued. "To learn. And if things go bad, you help whoever needs it, even them." Daniel frowned slightly. "Even if they laugh at us," Elena nodded. "Especially then." The transport ship that carried them to Carvos was old and plain. No symbols, no weapons mounted along the hull. When it arrived near the massive alien warship hosting the games, it looked like a tool drifting beside a blade. As Marcus and Daniel stepped into the hangar, conversations paused. Rows of armored alien warriors turned to look at them. Their lack of armor, their calm expressions, and their simple gear drew immediate judgment. "So these are Earth's champions?" one warrior whispered loudly. Marcus adjusted the strap on his pack. He did not respond. Daniel met a few stares, his face unreadable. General Caraxa observed them from a raised platform. She noted their posture, the way their eyes moved, the absence of fear. It was unfamiliar but not impressive enough to change her mind. The rules were explained quickly. The war games would simulate real combat and survival scenarios. Environmental hazards were part of the test. Injuries were possible. Withdrawal was allowed but remembered. When the drop ships descended onto Carvos, the moon greeted them with violent winds and dark clouds. The ground shook under their feet as teams scattered to establish camps. Alien units moved aggressively, planting flags, powering armor, and marking territory. Their strength was obvious, their confidence absolute. Marcus and Daniel chose a low ridge away from the main groups. They did not plant a flag. They observed the wind, the ground, the cloud movement. "The storm will hit here first," Daniel said. Marcus nodded. "We build now." They worked fast, using terrain and basic materials. They reinforced natural rock formations, anchored supports deep, and sealed gaps against the cold. Hours later, the storm came. Winds howled like living things. Energy fields flickered across alien camps as armor systems struggled to compensate. Several structures failed under pressure they had not planned for. Marcus and Daniel stayed inside their shelter, monitoring the situation. When emergency signals began appearing on their scanners, they exchanged a look. "Time," Marcus said. They moved into the storm, tethered together, navigating by memory and instinct. They reached the nearest alien camp just as a support tower collapsed. Without hesitation, they pulled trapped warriors free, using leverage and teamwork rather than strength alone. The alien warriors were shocked. These humans should have been overwhelmed. Instead, they moved with purpose, speaking clearly, making quick decisions. More calls for help followed. The brothers responded to each one they could reach. By the time the storm eased, several alien units owed their survival to the humans they had mocked hours earlier. General Caraxa reviewed the reports in silence. Casualty projections had been exceeded in unexpected ways. The humans were listed repeatedly under assistance provided. She watched a recording of Marcus bracing a failing structure while Daniel guided injured warriors to safety. There was no triumph in their actions, only necessity. "They did not compete," one officer said. "They adapted," Caraxa leaned back. "The games are only beginning." On the surface, Marcus and Daniel returned to their shelter. They were exhausted, bruised, but alive. Daniel looked back toward the alien camps. "They're watching us now." Marcus gave a small nod. "Let them." Above them, unseen beneath the clouds, the ancient systems buried within Carvos began to stir, responding to the chaos on the surface. And far from the war hall laughter, the real test of Earth had just begun. Morning on Carvos did not arrive with light. It arrived with silence. The storm clouds slowly pulled apart, leaving the sky dark and heavy, like a wound that had not finished bleeding. The wind weakened but never fully stopped. The ground remained unstable, cracking and shifting with low, distant sounds that echoed across the moon. Marcus stepped outside the shelter first. He scanned the horizon, eyes sharp, body already tired but steady. Daniel followed, carrying a small scanner patched together from old human tech and borrowed alien parts. Alien camps across the valley looked damaged. Some shields flickered weakly. Several armored warriors stood outside their structures, clearly shaken. The laughter from the first day was gone. Now there were only looks, curious, cautious, and uncertain. A group of alien warrior women approached slowly. Their armor was scratched, one arm plate bent inward from the storm. The leader stopped a few steps away, posture proud but tense. "You saved my squad," she said. Her voice was firm but different now, less sharp. Marcus nodded once. "The storm didn't care who you were." She studied him closely. "You risked yourselves. Why?" Daniel answered calmly. "Because leaving you there would have meant death." The warrior woman frowned, clearly uncomfortable with the simplicity of the answer. After a moment, she turned and walked away without another word. But she did not mock them. From the command ship in orbit, General Caraxa watched the feeds closely. She had seen warriors face death before, but rarely confusion. Her forces were trained to overpower, to dominate environments through strength and technology. What they were not trained to do was fail, and they had failed. The humans with no armor and minimal equipment had not. Caraxa called for a revised trial. The war games would now include a coordinated survival and navigation phase through the broken expanse, a region of Carvos known for magnetic distortions and underground activity. It was dangerous even for veteran warriors. The human brothers were assigned to a mixed unit with alien elites. When Marcus and Daniel arrived at the briefing area, conversation stopped again. This time, no one laughed. Some alien warriors avoided eye contact. Others watched carefully, as if trying to solve a puzzle. One of the elites, Captain Sirla, addressed the unit. "This region disrupts sensors and power systems. Stay close. Follow protocol." Marcus exchanged a glance with Daniel but said nothing. As they entered the broken expanse, compasses spun uselessly. Armor readouts flashed warnings. Several warriors cursed under their breath as systems weakened. The ground here was darker, softer. Every step felt uncertain. Daniel crouched and pressed his hand against the soil. He listened. "There's movement below," he said quietly. Captain Sirla scoffed. "This moon is always moving." "Yes," Marcus replied, "but not like this." They adjusted their path slightly, moving toward higher ground. Some alien warriors hesitated. "We are deviating from the route," Sirla snapped. "The route won't matter if the ground collapses," Daniel said. A deep tremor shook the area. Seconds later, part of the original path caved in, revealing a massive sinkhole. Silence followed. Sirla stared at the collapse, then back at the humans. "How did you know?" Marcus shrugged lightly. "You learn to listen when help is far away." They continued forward, now with the alien warriors following the humans instead of leading. Hours passed. Power levels dropped. One warrior collapsed when her armor locked up completely. Without hesitation, Daniel helped her remove the dead weight, even though it slowed them down. "We can leave her," another warrior said. "She is no longer combat effective." Marcus looked at him. "She's still alive." That ended the discussion. They built a temporary camp using natural cover. Marcus showed them how to distribute heat evenly without power, how to anchor structures using the ground instead of forcing it into shape. The alien warriors watched and copied. That night, as they rested, Sirla approached Alina Ward through a direct channel. Alina had remained aboard the observer ship, silent, watching everything. "Your sons, they were not trained like soldiers," Sirla said. "No," Alina replied calmly. "They were raised to survive." The next phase began before rest was complete. A low-frequency pulse rippled through the ground, knocking several warriors off their feet. Alarms screamed as sensors detected movement deep beneath the surface. Something ancient was waking up. From orbit, technicians scrambled to analyze the readings. Structures beneath Carvos were activating, old, powerful, and not built by any known species in the coalition. On the surface, the ground split open. Metal rose from stone like a buried spine, glowing faintly. Energy fields spread outward, disabling equipment instantly. Armor shut down. Weapons went dead. Panic broke out. "Fall back," Sirla shouted, but the ground behind them collapsed, cutting off retreat. Marcus grabbed Daniel's arm. "Stay low, follow me." They moved quickly, guiding the group toward a narrow ridge that remained stable. Energy waves passed over them, harmless to the humans but devastating to alien tech. One of the warrior women cried out as her armor froze mid-step, trapping her. Daniel rushed back, prying the armor open manually while Marcus shielded them from falling debris. "Why are you helping?" she gasped. "Because you're here," Daniel replied. Above them, the structure fully emerged. It was massive, silent, and alive with power. From orbit, General Caraxa watched in disbelief. Entire units were trapped. The war games had crossed into real danger. She ordered evacuation protocols. They failed. The ancient system had locked the moon in place, sealing the area. On the ground, Marcus assessed the situation quickly. "That thing reacts to energy patterns. It ignores us." Daniel nodded. "Old tech, built for something bigger than us." Alien warriors stared at them. "Can you stop it?" one asked. Marcus did not answer right away. He looked at the structure, then at his brother. "We can try," he said. They moved closer while the aliens held position. The structure pulsed again, but it did not target them. Daniel placed sensors by hand, mapping vibration and heat. Marcus climbed part of the exposed frame, finding access points worn smooth by time. From orbit, Alina watched her sons work with the same quiet focus she had seen when they were children fixing broken machines. "They don't see warriors," she said softly. "They see a problem." The structure reacted suddenly, energy spiking. A tunnel collapsed behind Marcus, cutting off his return. "Marcus!" Daniel shouted. "I'm okay," Marcus replied, though his voice echoed strangely. "Finish it." Alien warriors watched as Daniel continued alone, hands shaking but determined. He rerouted energy manually, triggering a controlled shutdown. The structure powered down with a deep, final sound. Systems across the moon flickered back to life. Rescue teams descended from orbit. When the dust settled, Marcus was pulled from the rubble, injured but alive. Alien warriors stood around them in silence. No laughter, no mockery. General Caraxa turned away from the screen slowly. Earth was no joke. And this was still only the beginning. After the ancient structure shut down, the moon of Carvos felt different. The ground no longer trembled, and the strange pressure in the air slowly faded. Rescue ships filled the sky, their engines humming as they searched for survivors. What had started as war games had turned into a crisis that no one would forget. Marcus lay on a medical platform inside a temporary field station. His arm was wrapped, and his breathing was slow but steady. Daniel stood nearby, watching the medics work. His hands were still dirty with dust and oil, but he did not notice. "You should rest," a medic said to Daniel. "I'm fine," Daniel replied, though his eyes never left his brother. Around them, alien warrior women sat or stood in silence. Some were injured, others shaken. Their armor, once a symbol of pride, now rested uselessly in piles. For the first time, many of them felt exposed. General Caraxa arrived at the station shortly after. She walked through the room, her presence commanding attention without effort. When she stopped near Marcus and Daniel, everyone nearby grew quiet. "You risked your life," Caraxa said, looking at Marcus. "You did not have to. You do not fight like us." The ancient system beneath Carvos was older than any recorded civilization. Its activation had nearly destroyed elite forces. Questions were raised about responsibility, competence, and leadership. Caraxa stood before the council alone. "The humans were observers," one council member said sharply, "yet they acted where our warriors failed." Caraxa did not hesitate. "I am suggesting we misunderstood what a warrior can be." A few felt something new: respect. On the surface, Marcus was cleared to move, though not fully healed. He and Daniel returned to their shelter, which still stood while many stronger structures had fallen. Alien warriors passed by and nodded, some offering supplies without words. Captain Sirla approached them near the ridge. "My unit owes you their lives," she said stiffly. "In our culture, that creates a bond. If you need protection, you will have it." She knew attention could be as dangerous as enemies. A transmission request came through from General Caraxa herself. "You raised them well," Caraxa said directly. "They raised each other too," Alina replied. Caraxa considered that. "The galaxy believes strength is something you take. Humans seem to believe it is something you build and share." This revelation spread quickly. Some alien commanders were embarrassed. Others were disturbed. If brute force could awaken such dangers, how many worlds had they already pushed too far? Tension grew within the ranks. A small group of warriors openly blamed the humans for exposing weakness. They whispered that Earth should never have been invited, that their presence had disrupted tradition. One night, as Marcus and Daniel checked perimeter sensors, a confrontation occurred. "You make us look weak," one warrior woman snapped. "You walk without armor and survive where we fall." "Because you invited us." If it fully activated, it could tear the moon apart. Evacuation was possible, but only if someone went back down to stabilize it manually. Energy-based systems would trigger a full response. Machines could not be trusted. The silence after this announcement was heavy. Caraxa looked across the command deck. "Who will volunteer?" "But we understand how it reacts." 2 humans, 3 alien warriors who refused to let them go alone, including Captain Sirla. The descent into the depths of Carvos was slower and more dangerous than before. Narrow tunnels twisted through ancient metal and stone. The air grew warmer. The hum of the core vibrated through their bones. The alien warriors struggled without powered assistance. Marcus showed them how to pace their breathing, how to move efficiently in tight spaces. Daniel marked paths with simple chalk, something the aliens found strangely comforting. They reached the secondary core chamber. It was smaller than the first but more unstable. Cracks ran through its surface, light pulsing through them like a heartbeat. "This thing is dying," Sirla said. "Or waking up," Daniel replied. Marcus examined the structure. "It needs balance. It's overloading because the surface systems were cut too fast." "Enough for evacuation." A shockwave threw one alien warrior against the wall. Sirla pulled her free, shielding her with her own body. Marcus lost his footing and nearly fell into a widening crack. Daniel caught him. For a moment, the brothers locked eyes. "We finish this," Marcus said. They did. The core stabilized, its light dimming to a steady glow. Alarms ceased. The moon began to calm. Evacuation orders were given immediately. The team barely made it back to the surface before the tunnels sealed themselves, ancient systems resetting into dormancy. From orbit, the moon looked peaceful again, as if nothing had happened. The fleet departed Carvos in silence. In the days that followed, reports spread across the Orion coalition, not of human strength or violence, but of human endurance, cooperation, and problem-solving. Warrior academies began reviewing footage, training doctrines were questioned, old assumptions cracked. General Caraxa requested a formal audience with Earth. For the first time, it was not to judge, but to learn. As Marcus and Daniel boarded the transport home, alien warriors lined the hangar. Some bowed their heads slightly, a gesture reserved only for equals. Elena waited on the other side of the screen, watching her son's return. The mockery had ended. But the ripple they had caused was only beginning to spread across the galaxy. The journey back from Carvos was quiet. The transport ship moved smoothly through space, but inside, thoughts were heavy. Marcus sat near the small viewport, watching stars pass like slow rain. His injuries were healing, but his body still felt weak. Daniel sat across from him, checking supplies out of habit, even though there was nothing left to prepare. Around them, alien warrior women occupied the other seats. Their armor was removed, stored away. Without it, they looked different, smaller, more like people and less like legends. Captain Sirla broke the silence. When we return to the fleet, nothing will be the same. For warriors who built their lives on tradition, change is terrifying. Their expressions were serious, unreadable. Word of what happened on Carvos had spread faster than the ship itself. General Caraxa stood at the front. She raised her hand, and the corridor fell silent. "Marcus Ward, Daniel Ward," she said. "You will walk with me. Not through violence, but through example. If strength needs to be proven all the time, it's already insecure. I have requested that Earth be granted a permanent voice in coalition strategy councils," she said. Marcus frowned. "We're not leaders." Within hours, several clans challenged Carax's authority. They argued that allowing humans influence would weaken the warrior identity of the coalition. Some demanded trials, others demanded removal. Tensions spread like fire through the fleet. Elena Ward watched these developments from Earth's diplomatic station. She listened to arguments filled with pride and fear, and she recognized both. Humans had once stood in similar places. She requested permission to address the Coalition Council directly. The chamber was larger than the War Hall on Carvos. It was built to remind everyone inside that power belonged to the many, not the one. When Elena stepped forward, unarmed and calm, murmurs followed her. "You question our ways without standing among us," one commander said. Elena met her gaze. "I question nothing, I offer perspective." Do humans believe they are superior? They believed the humans represented a threat to tradition and dominance. They planned to prove once and for all that humans were weak when isolated from goodwill. Marcus and Daniel were unaware of the plan as they walked through a maintenance sector of the flagship, checking power routing at the request of engineering crews. Their experience with low-tech systems made them valuable. The lights flickered. Daniel stopped. That wasn't a normal fluctuation. Their armor was active, weapons powered. Marcus raised his hands slowly. "We're unarmed." Transmission delays stretched longer than normal. Her instincts, sharpened by years of worry, screamed. She contacted Caraxa immediately. "Where are my sons?" Elena demanded. Caraxa's eyes widened slightly. They were assigned to engineering. The containment field hummed softly, deadly and silent. "You believe humans are weak," Marcus said calmly, "but weakness is attacking unarmed guests." Manual overrides. "This ship wasn't built for combat inside," Daniel said quietly. The warriors laughed. That was their mistake. Marcus moved first, not attacking, but pulling a release handle. Gravity shifted slightly. Crates slid. Warriors stumbled as their powered armor overcorrected. Daniel used a manual control to vent cold gas from a maintenance line. Visibility dropped instantly. They moved through the confusion with precision, disarming without striking, using leverage, environment, and timing. They did not injure anyone, but they escaped the containment field. Security forces arrived moments later, led by Caraxa herself. The radical warriors were detained. The footage spread everywhere, not of humans fighting, but of humans refusing to escalate even when provoked. The council reconvened in emergency session. "This cannot be ignored," Caraxa said. "They were tested through cruelty and still showed restraint. They are ordinary humans raised to solve problems without becoming monsters. If that frightens you, ask why. By narrow margin, Earth was granted a permanent advisory role, not in military command, but in survival doctrine, crisis response, and planetary safety. The radical faction was dissolved. Marcus and Daniel returned to Earth soon after. They did not stay for celebrations. They did not seek recognition. As they stepped onto familiar soil, Alina embraced them tightly. "I was scared," she admitted. "We know," Marcus said softly. Daniel looked up at the sky. "Do you think they'll really change?" "But you planted something." The mockery of Earth had turned into curiosity, and curiosity was far more dangerous to old ideas than fear ever had. The galaxy had not yet fully understood humanity, but it was learning. The return to Earth felt quieter than any journey Marcus and Daniel had ever taken. There were no escorts this time, no watching eyes in the shadows. The transport ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like any other civilian craft, its hull heating gently as clouds rolled past the viewport. Below them stretched familiar land, fields, small cities, winding roads, and oceans that had shaped human history long before the stars were reached. When the ship landed, there were no crowds, no banners. Just Alina standing near the landing pad, her hands folded, her face calm in the way only a mother could manage after fear had already burned itself out. Marcus stepped down first. Daniel followed. Alina pulled them both into a tight embrace, holding them longer than necessary. Neither son pulled away. "You did more than survive," she said quietly. "You changed how they see us." "We didn't plan to," Marcus replied. "I know," Alina said. "That's why it worked." News from the Orion Coalition continued to arrive in fragments. Not speeches or declarations, but small changes. Training programs were being revised. Survival specialists were being consulted alongside warriors. Some clans resisted. Others listened. General Caraxa sent one final message before returning to her duties. "The galaxy still believes power is loud," she said. "You reminded us that endurance whispers. We will not forget." Life on Earth returned to routine quickly. Marcus went back to repairing infrastructure on frontier settlements. Daniel began teaching survival engineering to mixed species teams through remote instruction. Alina returned to quiet advisory work, guiding policy without seeking attention. But the galaxy did not move on so easily. Months later, a distress signal echoed across Coalition space. A border world, Keth Prime, had suffered a massive environmental failure. Its planetary shields had collapsed, triggering storms, seismic shifts, and system-wide breakdowns. Alien relief fleets arrived first, but their advanced equipment failed under unstable conditions. Panic followed. Evacuation was slow. Supplies dwindled. Old mistakes repeated themselves. Then a request was made, one that would have been unthinkable before Carvos. Earth was asked for help, not for soldiers, not for weapons, for humans. Marcus and Daniel received the message together. They read it in silence. Daniel exhaled slowly. They finally asked the right way. They traveled as advisors, not commanders. When they arrived at Keth Prime, the scene was grim. Cities partially buried, power grids fractured. Alien responders frustrated and exhausted. Marcus walked the ground, touching soil, watching wind movement, listening to structures strain. Daniel spoke with local engineers, simplifying plans, stripping away complexity that failed under pressure. Human teams followed soon after. Builders, medics, logistics planners, ordinary people trained to adapt. The alien population watched cautiously at first. Then results appeared, shelters stabilized. Food distribution improved. Simple fixes restored partial power where advanced systems could not. Evacuation routes were redesigned based on terrain, not authority lines. Alien leaders began to listen instead of command. One elder approached Marcus during a late cycle, watching humans and aliens work side by side. "Your people do not rush," the elder said. "You do not posture," Marcus shrugged slightly. "There's no time for that when things are breaking." The crisis ended not with victory but recovery. Keth Prime survived. The story spread faster than any broadcast. Across the coalition, the phrase human method entered common use. It did not mean weak, it did not mean soft, it meant practical, calm, relentless. Years passed. Earth's advisory role grew quietly. Humans were invited into disaster response councils, exploration planning, and first contact protocols. Not because they dominated, but because they endured. Alien warrior women who once mocked Earth now trained alongside humans, learning restraint as well as strength. Some struggled, others embraced it. General Caraxa visited Earth once without armor, walking through a human city with Alina at her side. "You never tried to replace us," Caraxa said. Alina smiled. "We learned long ago that forcing change breaks more than it fixes." Caraxa looked around at children playing, machines humming, people arguing and laughing freely. "Your species survives chaos by accepting it. We survive by helping each other through it," Alina replied. On a distant training world, a group of young alien cadets watched old recordings from Carvos. Not the battles, the moments between them. A human pulling debris away with bare hands. Two brothers arguing quietly over the best way to reinforce a failing tunnel. A warrior woman lowering her weapon because someone else chose trust. The instructor paused the footage. "This," she said, "is why Earth matters." Marcus and Daniel never became legends in their own time. Their names appeared in reports, then faded into footnotes. That was fine with them. One evening years later, the brothers sat outside their old home under a clear sky. Stars filled the darkness, brighter than ever. "Do you ever think about how close it all came to going wrong?" Daniel asked. Marcus nodded. "All the time." "And we still didn't fight them." Marcus smiled faintly. "We fought the problem." Above them, ships moved between stars, human and alien together, carrying not armies but people. The galaxy still had wars, still had pride, still had fear, but it also had something new. A reminder that the strongest species was not the one that conquered the most worlds, but the one that knew how to hold things together when everything else fell apart. And from that moment on, no one ever mocked Earth again, not because they were afraid, but because they understood.